A new law in Oregon requires that the state's K through 12 public schools provide free tampons in both the girls' and boys' bathrooms. Yes, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, oh, Klavan, you virulent yet strangely lovable patriarchal monster. I suppose now you're going to make all kinds of despicably sexist jokes in the hope of cajoling us all back into a world where men are men and women are women, and they marry one another in order to create healthy families of rambunctious yet honorable boys and loving, moral girls who carry both tradition and innovation into a shining new American future. Yeah, that's largely accurate. But still, I'm not making this story up. The Oregon State Education Department says the new tampon law, quote, and as God is my witness, this is a real quote, affirms the right to menstrual dignity for transgender, intersex, non-binary, and two-spirit students, unquote. That sentence reminds me of the time I watched Lord of the Rings on acid. Because there's no such thing as elves, I've never taken acid, and so the whole thing is a fantasy start to finish, very much like the concerns of the Oregon Education Department, which operates in a state whose schools are ranked 35 out of 50. But at least now, sniggering 8-year-old boys can stick tampons up their butts and say, look, I'm a girl with a tampon up my butt. The Oregon law is, of course, a result of leftist gender theory, which holds that gender characteristics have nothing to do with a person's physical sex. Now, you well might ask, if gender characteristics and sex are intimately linked in every other mammal on Earth, why do gender theorists believe that when it comes to humans, they magically become distinct? Well, the reason is most gender theorists are women, so they're completely irrational. Unfortunately, when you explain this to gender theorists, they get very angry. It's like telling them their dress makes them look fat. Even if it's true, gender theorists want you to lie about it for some reason. Then they go off and sulk and won't tell you why, because gender theorists believe that if you really love them, you would just somehow know what they're feeling. In general, gender theorists can be very perplexing creatures. Anyway, all of this raises an interesting question. Since boys don't actually have periods, and since transgender, intersex, non-binary, and two-spirit students are exceedingly rare when they exist at all, and since menstrual dignity is not actually a thing, as any real woman will be happy to explain to you at excruciating length, what are Oregon boys supposed to do with all those tampons in their bathrooms? Well, you'll be delighted, but not surprised to hear I have some suggestions. One, they could lay out about 30 or 40 tampons on the bathroom counters, soak them with water, form teams, and then throw them at each other in massive, hilarious wet tampon battles that they'll remember with fond, nostalgic chuckles for the rest of their lives. Two, they could study them in an effort to figure out what vaginas look like until their parents give them smartphones, whereupon they'll just be able to look at porn. Three, they could use their masculine technical skills to interweave them like Lincoln logs and build elaborate tampon cabins, then soak them with water so that they expand into mansions, symbolizing how our country rose from simple yet heroic beginnings to unprecedented levels of wealth and success until there were leftist gender theorists and everything became a big soggy pile of wet cotton. Or four, they could stick them up their butts, then drop their pants and waggle them at the Oregon State Education Department while shouting, hey, jagoffs, how about teaching us some math so our schools aren't ranked lower than the ones in Eritrea? Now, I know some feminists who are living completely fulfilling and satisfied feminist lives that are totally imaginary are going to write to me and say, Klavan, you rotten but incredibly alluring sexist, with your old-fashioned attitudes, you just want to keep women in the kitchen barefoot and pregnant. But that is totally untrue. I see absolutely no reason why women shouldn't wear shoes, or at least socks. If you want more great content, like and subscribe to the Andrew Klavan Podcast.